Hey there everybody, you're very welcome back to In Forest and Lands. I'm Joe Price, Wilderness Skills Instructor, and behind the camera is the brains of the operation as always, Ida Olsen.
Hello everyone.
And we're standing out here in our classroom in Varmland, and today I'm going to start our Tarpology series. We get a lot of questions from beginners about tarps and stuff, but I think an awful lot of videos out there skip ahead and kind of get 20 leagues ahead of themselves. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about basically what to pick up in the store when you're there, what to look for on the packaging, and what it's going to do for you in the woods. So first things first, you've walked into a store and you want to know what you want to buy. Most tarps, they'll come in a package like this and you'll see the measurements and stuff on the side. The one that I recommend the most is the square tarps. Don't let this rectangular box fool you, but these are the measurements that you want to be watching for. 300 by 300. So this is a 3 meter by 3 meter tarp. The reason why you want these two numbers to match is the tarp will be square. This will allow you to set it up further and better down the road. Most packages of tarps just come with the tarp like this in the store, but once it's 3 by 3, that's the first thing you want to be looking at before we get into materials and constructions and shapes of tarps. But square is the best all-round money in the bank. The next thing you'll need, if you're going to be venturing down the tarp road, is a set of 10 stakes. I like the plastic ABS 10 stakes. They're stronger, they break less, they're cheaper, but you can use metal ones if you want, but the plastic ones are just fine. These are my favorite ones. You can use them for a whole host of other things in the outdoor space as well. The next thing you're going to need is some paracord, some good sturdy cordage. This is a mixture of paracord and bank line. And that's because I use this for my ridge lines. It's got some toggles on it, and if you want to see how to use a ridge line, you can check out our other videos. So most tarps in stores are very rarely on display. They look like they're in packages like this. Remember I was saying about the 3 by 3 being square? I have a 3 by 3 tarp here out in front of me and you can see how square it is. I also want people who've maybe never seen a tarp, because I've noticed most beginners when they go to buy a tarp, they buy the biggest one. They buy the biggest one because of fear. Now I don't believe that people carry too much equipment. What I believe is that people carry their fears. So when I see people come out with these big massive tarps, I just know that maybe they're afraid of rain and a bit of coverage and wind and so on and so forth, but I'm 182 centimeters tall, actually 184 centimeters tall, and I can fit quite comfortably under a 3 by 3 tarp and have been outside in them in inclement weather. So 3 by 3 is plenty fine for one individual. The next thing you want to be looking for in your tarp is what is your tarp made out of. This tarp here is made out of sil nylon. I recommend staying within the polyester sil nylon family for when you're out and about. Yes, canvas is very aesthetic, it's very tough, it's very well built, it's slightly better for the environment, but it's not slightly better for your environment. Canvas tarps can be very heavy, they can leak, they can really dampen, no pun intended, the experience of sleeping outside under a tarp. Sil nylon is a perfect 100% waterproof and super light and foldable material for your tarps. The next thing you want to be looking at is how many tie-outs are on your tarp. Tie-outs are these pieces here. They're also called loops, so fabric loops, but tie-outs is what I refer them to as. You want to make sure that they're well constructed, that they have these box stitching, reinforcement layers, because you put an awful lot of pressure on your tarp when you go outside. So making sure that these stitchings are substantial and secure are what you want, because you are going to be using your tie-outs in a multiple array of options, and this is what's going to keep you protected. The more tie-outs your tarp has, the more configurations you can put it into. Again, something that maybe people who are venturing out for the first time never check, because the tarps that they see, in garages and things that cover cars and wood piles, they'll usually only have tie-outs in each corner. But when you come out and start stepping into the world of bushcraft and woodcraft and tarp camping, you need more tie-outs and more secure tie-outs in more secure places. So this one here, this is a tarp made by DD. It is a super light tarp, and it's my favorite tarp for just general outside purposes. But it has a total of 4 tie-outs along each side. The corners are reinforced, and then it has 4 tie-outs reinforced along the center line here, and this allows for possibly the most configurations in your tarp when you're outside. So again, just to reiterate on those points, sil nylon is fantastic. It comes in different weights. This is an ultralight, but there's non-lighter fabrics, but sil nylon is what you want to go for. It should feel like a tent. Always check that your tie-outs are reinforced. Square, tie-outs, sill nylon, and you're off to a great start. So we're going to take a walk around the classroom. For those who don't know, this is actually where me and Ida teach our yearly courses here in the beautiful Värmland. But I wanted to show you this next tarp to give you a sense of scale when it comes to what I mean by, there's a big difference between 3x3 and 4x4. This is from the same manufacturer, made out of the same material with the same amount of tie outs, but it's 1 meter bigger. And people have to understand when it comes to squareness that it's 1 meter bigger square. So as you can see now, a 4x4 tarp, yes, it's bigger and gives you more coverage, but in an enclosed wood space or in a tighter environment, or even just in your backpack, this is a big tarp, something that I'd recommend that maybe split the load between 2 people. This is what me and Ida would bring if we were going out and we were deciding to sleep on the ground together. But for an individual, this is a bit overkill. The next tarp we have here is one of the favourite tarps in my collection. For the tarpologists out there and the camo experts, this is made out of Finnish MO5 and was a gift from Savoda. This is a military tarp, and as such is a different configuration, something that people sometimes get a bit confused about too, and I thought I'd clarify. Military tarps, or bashes as they're sometimes called, are built for a very specific purpose. They are built to keep soldiers under cover, out of rain and low to the ground. So thus they're going to be completely different from the other tarps that I showed you and the setups that you can do with them. They're made out of the same materials. This is sill nylon, but it's a heavier gauge sill nylon. It's meant to be a little bit more durable for the environments that it will find itself in. The tie outs on it are doubly reinforced, so it makes it a great strong one, and I'm going to show you a closer look at the tie outs in a minute. But there is less tie outs on these tarps, because these tarps, bashes and military tarps, are only meant to be set up in one type of configuration, which is an A configuration. So they're meant to sit like this, and the soldiers can get low to the ground and get underneath them. It's okay if that's how you want to camp, but it is very uncomfortable. You can ask any soldier. It's not exactly conducive to comfort and camp aesthetics. So bashes are what are called rectangular tarps. So if you remember back to the last 2 tarps, there was a 3x3 and there was a 4x4. The 2 numbers matched each other. A military bash will have 2 odd numbers, and it's not exclusive to military bashes. The tarps you can find in stores are exactly the same. So sometimes it's a 2x5 or it's a 3x2. And that tells you that the tarp is not square, that it is rectangular, and a rectangular tarp can only be set up in this configuration. Again, if that's your aesthetic, that's totally fine, but it's not conducive to the multiple shapes that you find in the bushcraft world, and we will show you in subsequent videos. So that is a military spec tarp or basha. So this is what I wanted to show you about the tie outs. This is doubly stitched, doubly reinforced. It is box stitched on this side and seamed in over here, which overlocks. This is a very good, very strong tie out. So again, just to show you references between what you're looking for. Some of the cheaper tarps will just have 1 stitch or 2 stitches running across here, and the tie outs will be very flimsy. This needs to be super strong, or as strong as it can be. So we've gone on the journey of tarps, from military to square to standard bushcraft tarps. But what happens if we want to take the next step out and we want something more specialized? In the world of bushcraft, you often see, or woodcraft, you often see an awful lot of people out hammocking or in hammocks, or maybe on the ground, and are happy with a specific setup. So you can buy specialist tarps like this one. This is from War Bonnet. It's made out of a lighter material. It's also reinforced. Remember what we're looking for. The tie outs are great. There is a lot of them. There's actually a couple of additions to this tarp, but this tarp is cut very, very specially. It's cut in a hexagonal shape. So you can see here, where I'm standing in the center of it, running down the ridge line, that rather than it being square and straight across the front of me, it comes out into 2 points, almost like wings. The center bits are then cut in at the sides. This is to save weight, but it also is conducive to the shape of the tarp when it is set up. And you can check that out in my War Bonnet tarp video if you want to see this when it's actually set up. And then it comes back out again into 2 points on the end. Now, the major difference between these, besides the obvious physical characteristics, is the price point. The tarp I showed you at the start, the DD tarp, they a great entry-level tarp, a great entry-level price point, and will last you for years. In fact, the DD tarp you saw at the start is my original tarp that I bought myself many moons ago and have been using conducively for years. When you move up into the 4x4s, naturally it's more material, but it's going to be a bit more expensive. But when you start getting up to these super specialized, ultralight, specific cut tarps, they're going to raise significantly in price point. So I wanted to show you a little closer why these tarps increase in price and why I would consider them specialist tarps for the advantages that you get out of them. But as always, we're looking at the size and the shape. So it's a hexagonal tarp, roughly 3 meters wide by 3 meters wide. It's got a reinforced box stitchings or strong tie-outs. In fact, I love these loops because they're a lot easier to work with than fabric. Again, tied out really strong here with this ultralight, super strong material. But then the biggest difference is how thin and strong this material is. This is again a type of ripstop or sil nylon. You can see that it's coated on one side, and all tarps should be this. There's a difference between this matte side. This is the side that would be facing the weather. And then underneath here is the side that's facing you, and you can see that it's impregnated or laminated with this waterproof coating. And I'm going to show you now how to protect that in your tarps and make it last longer. So I want to talk to you a bit about Tarp Care, but you can't care for something that you don't understand. That's philosophical. That's very philosophical. But anyway, I want to talk to you about Tarp Care. When you buy your tarp, it'll come in a stuff sack like this one. This is the stuff sack, this is the sack that's on the outside of it. It'll be rolled up, it'll be folded, and it'll be put in there nice and neat. Now, it is considered kind of an unwritten rule for best practice, just because nobody I ever see talks about it, to put it back in the sack like this one here. But that is actually not the best thing to do for your tarp. Your tarp is a lot like a sleeping bag. And the reason why it's not the best thing to do for your tarp is not just one piece of material. It consists of two pieces of material like I just addressed. So you've got the sil nylon that the tarp is actually made out of, and then you have that super thin film or laminate on the other side of the tarp, and the two are a membrane that work together. But one is obviously a bit more flexible than the other one. It's kind of like a cling film, if you will, for if that's easier for folks to imagine. So the best way for you to put your tarp back, one, it'll take up less space in your backpack, and also it's quicker and faster to put it away, but it stops all that cracking. If you constantly fold your tarp into squares and you put creases in it like paper in order to keep putting it back into its stuff sack over and over again, eventually what you're going to do, and you do see this on people's tarps in videos and in the woods, is you'll develop a crease or a crack in that waterproof membrane or laminate layer on the other side of it. Whereas just like a sleeping bag, if you get an oversized bag, you can take your tarp down and you can stuff your tarp in here. Just bam, bam, bam. You wouldn't fold a sleeping bag all the time, you will damage it. Don't do the same with your tarp. It's the Ray Jardine method of packing. I recommend Ray Jardine's books. He was an ultralight hiker and basically came up with the whole ultralight hiking system. But they take up a lot less space in backpacks too. I'll show you this one here. There's a lot of dead air in something like this. And not only are you damaging your tarp, which is taking up a large part of your backpack space. When you stuff it into an oversized stuff bag or dry bag, you can just 2 litre one would be suffice. I find 2 litres to 5 litres work well. This is just one of Edith's old netting bags. You stuff it in there and you remove all that dead space, and then it is in your backpack nice and safe, and you're not going to damage your tarp. So there you have it, folks. That is an introduction to buying a tarp. From the moment you go into the store to everything that you should be looking for in technical specs, how you should pack it, and the aftercare. If you fancy checking out our other videos that include these tarps to have a look at it, please do. And then I look forward to showing you the different setups in future videos. And before the video ends, I just want to give a shout out to the Knights of Bretton Moor. I play a game called Warhammer 40k Tacticus, and they're the guild that I'm part of. And when I'm not nerding out over this stuff, I'm nerding out over Warhammer 40k lore. And I just wanted to say thanks to all the guys and girls there for making a great guild and making a guy feel very welcome. So until the next video, folks, please check out our links, like, subscribe, hit that bell button. We really enjoy the amount of interaction we get. And as always, me and Ida are open on all our social media channels. If there's any videos you would like to see and to have me clear up, let us know.